Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and yep, they're running wild. Last night, if you tuned in, I played the first video I saw of the supposed prison break of ISIS soldiers in Syria as predicted by the mainstream media. Now, the majority of those people, they predicted that because Trump had abandoned the Kurds, that Turkish shelling would cause, or the Turks coming in bombing, would cause ISIS to escape and run wild. And then last night we had this video. We're going to play it as I talk about it. Now, the very first part's a little bit disturbing. It seems like somebody's taken out here. I don't know exactly how. Like, maybe he hit a landmine. I'm not sure if he was hit. Who knows? But you have to get like all the way over to like right here when it starts zoning out. And what you're going to see is a few people over to my side right here escaping. And then you're going to get another shot. Now let's be 100,000% clear. The timing of this, the fact that it was predicted by the mainstream media, the fact that it was told in retaliation of how dare we get the troops out of that region of Syria and start to withdraw. See them? We're free! We're free! We're free! And you see them throwing their hands up. Shows you that this is absolutely an operation. To get this out to the media, and believe me, like I predicted last night, it's all over the media. This is Trump's fault, right? Right? Now, here's where you see like 20 plus, just boom. Just here comes the run and gun. We're out of here. And there was some question of how valid this was, but now we have even more footage. I'm going to show you that footage in a minute. It's different from this. But first, remember when we said that it was actually going to be the Turks that were going to let these people go? Remember, it was going to be Turks? Well, I'm trying to get Syrian Girl, a.k.a. Partisan Girl, a.k.a. Mimi, on the show to talk about this because she's covering it better than just about everybody else. But even the New York Times reported, okay, that the Kurds were thinking about just releasing 3,200 ISIS prisoners. And again, I don't know how many of these people are actually in ISIS, all right? I don't know how many of these people are just enemy combatants, a.k.a. 16-year-olds we don't like overseas. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. But what I'd like you to understand is that this story did not seem to make sense to me. And it was separate from all the videos going out. It was saying that ISIS women rose against the internal security forces at Al-Hol. They set ablaze tents and attacked the administrative and security forces there with sticks and stones. Yes, women with sticks and stones, they're some match for armed soldiers. And usually the Independent does really good work, and I'm sure that they were just reporting on what was out there. And then they said there was a video of the disturbance distributed by the SDF and shot from a distance showed around 20 fully covered women running in an open space with several men appearing to pursue them. Now, I think what we're about to watch here is not that video. I still have not seen that video. But here we are. Now it's supposedly, these are the ISIS family members. Now, are these the women in the camp? I don't know. But you just saw something completely separate. And now we're watching this. Okay? And as you can see, people are running. And now the hysteria is going to meet a fever pitch. A fever pitch, I promise you. There will be some kind of a beheading video or an execution video coming in the next few weeks, in my opinion. I think that's the move. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't like I don't like watching people die on video. I don't like watching people tortured. All right? But as you can see, I would assume this might be what they're talking about, but I'm not seeing anybody really be pursued. I don't know exactly what that video is really showing me. It's certainly not showing me women attacking with sticks and stones. Now, one of the points I want to make is that in that region, even though now we're going to talk about them making Al-Qaeda the boogeyman again, we fought alongside the Al-Nusra Front and Al-Qaeda. If you just type in Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda U.S. forces, there's even a Wikipedia page out there talking about the Al-Nusra Front and its relationship to Al-Qaeda. Right there. Do you see it? It's right there. And when we start looking at this, and we ask the question, where is al-Qaeda in Syria? This is March of 2018. Now, Russia supposedly is attacking al-Qaeda, but al-Qaeda is our friend. Well, here's the deal. Russia went in there to fight ISIS, right? And anything else that was supposedly destabilizing the country against Assad. But we supposedly didn't go in there to get Assad. But here's the comeback. Hear me out. Tulsi Gabbard brings up at the debates and then after the debates that we are fighting alongside al-Qaeda, and just utter silence. They move on. I want to point that out because this is very, very important. Now watch this. This is Tulsi getting the chance to explain herself that the Trump administration is actually working with al-Qaeda.
Claim last night, Congresswoman, that you believe the president is a supporter of al-Qaeda. You didn't have an opportunity to back up that claim with evidence. I'm going to give you that opportunity now.
This president has chosen to double down and triple down on an alliance with Saudi Arabia, a country that is the #1 propagator of the radical Wahhabi Salafist ideology that fuels terrorist groups like ISIS and al-Qaeda. And secondly, this president is doubled down on support for al-Qaeda and continuing this regime change war in Syria, even threatening to use our own military to respond to anyone who tries to attack al-Qaeda in the city of Idlib in Syria, where they are in control of and have their stronghold. This is deeply concerning to all of us as Americans. But
let's just stop right there. So notice she mentioned Idlib. Look at the date on this. August 4th, right? Early August, she says this. I want to point this out because it's so damn important. How we flip the script every time we work with al-Qaeda, we work with the Muslim Brotherhood when it's convenient. We work with bin Laden when it's convenient. And we openly do it. But notice this is the beginning of August 4th, her exposing the fact that our government is in bed with al-Qaeda over in Syria. Well, check this out. At the end of August, they report U.S. forces strike Syrian al-Qaeda facility. And guess where that was? In Idlib. Just where she was talking about. You see, they're paying attention when somebody like that goes up on national TV, when she has a base, when people might vote for her in the primaries. They pay attention. They want to refute that. So now you see, a little less than a month after Tulsi exposes the fact that we're protecting al-Qaeda in Idlib, now we're striking a Syrian al-Qaeda facility. And on top of that, we have this, this is out of foreign policy, okay? Council on Foreign Relations, all that. And I know Tulsi's a CFR member, or was a CFR member. I don't know that she's currently in the organization. But here's a piece saying 18 years after 9/11, the terrorist group has found a new home and rediscovered its old mission, which is going after us, of course. Now, I'd be remiss, and I've played this before, but I'm going to play this now, if I did not point out that Tulsi does a great job here of talking about the al-Qaeda relationship with the United States government in Syria. But notice that Anderson Cooper continues to try to make her say and encourage her to say that Bashar al-Assad is a brutal dictator. He's always got to be a bad guy and a brutal dictator. You know, just like Saddam Hussein was a brutal dictator. And I'm not saying these people are great, but just like we did the story earlier this week, where Saddam Hussein was living in a secular country and was not allowing things like pleasure marriages to actually take place in Iraq, now 8 out of 10 clerics will sell a girl off, an underage girl, as young as 9 years fucking old. They'll sell her off for as minimum as an hour to 99 years to some random guy in a pleasure marriage. So say what you want about that brutal dictator, but that wasn't going on there at that time. So here's Anderson Sellout Cooper, Mr. Establishment, talking to Tulsi Gabbard.
The only thing really she said about you is she said that you were essentially an apologist for Bashar al-Assad, that you would never criticize him as a dictator or murderer.
I think it's unfortunate and a disservice to voters in this country that she resorts to cheap smears rather than actually addressing her record, the issues that I've raised, and the fact that she said she is proud of this record. If that's the case, then voters deserve to hear about why she's so proud of the lives that she has negatively impacted, the families that she's torn apart in California.
And by the way, again, she's talking right now about taking on Kamala Harris, who was keeping people in prison she knew was innocent when she was a prosecutor there. And she snapped at her on that. And again, Kamala Harris doesn't have a lot of dirt on Tulsi Gabbard because Tulsi Gabbard has pretty much voted the way she said she was going to vote, okay? And done the things she has said she's going to do.
If voters are wondering, what is your take on Bashar al-Assad, what do you say?
My take is one of a soldier, where I've seen the cost of war firsthand. In Iraq, serving in a medical unit every single day, confronted with that high human cost of war. So I will never apologize for doing all that I can to prevent more of my brothers and sisters from being sent into harm's way to fight counterproductive regime change wars that make our country less safe, that take more lives, and that cost taxpayers trillions more dollars. So if that means meeting with a dictator or meeting with an adversary, absolutely.
Great answer. She says, look, I've been in these tents, the medical tents. I've seen the horrors of war. I've been there. I'm talking as a soldier. So if I've got to talk to a brutal dictator, and we'll label anybody a brutal dictator. Remember, Rumsfeld shook hands with Saddam on camera before he was a brutal dictator. John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. If you want to know how we deal with second and third world nations that don't want to play ball with the United States and do what we want.
I would do it.
Do you
This is about
consider
the
him-
national security of our country.
I understand that position. Do you consider him a torturer or a murderer?
Is he a torturer and a murderer? Is he a brutal dictator? He will not stop.
That's not what this is about. I don't defend or apologize or have anything to do with what he has done to his
But if you're
own
president of the
people.
United States, it's fine if you want to meet with somebody, but there's traditionally a role of a president of the United States calling out human rights abuses overseas. Bashar al-Assad is head of a regime which has disappeared many people as his father's
Here's the way.
And we're part of a regime that spies on the American public every single day through every single electronic communication out there. We're a place that has Guantanamo Bay, that has Abu Ghraib, that has taken as many Middle Easterns, if not more, and I would say a hell of a lot more than Bashar al-Assad has, and disappeared them, and tortured them, and waterboarded them, and sexually abused them and their fucking children, Anderson. So don't give me this bullshit.
Way that I look at it, and the kind of leadership, the example of leadership that I follow, is one where Kennedy met with and worked with Khrushchev to forge a deal that would keep the American people safe. Where obviously Reagan met with Gorbachev, Roosevelt met with Stalin, worked with Stalin.
Stalin, a person who on record has killed, millions of people.
Nixon met with Mao. These are the kinds of leaders who think about things at a very practical and real level about how to keep our country and the American people
Stalin
safe.
murdered 20 million people.
That's my point.
And it's a great point. And he just can't understand how he keeps trying to spin it. Tell me he's a dictator. I want it. I want it. I want it. Has Bashar al-Assad killed 20 million people, Anderson? That's her point.
Exactly.
Right.
Yet Roosevelt not only met with him, but he allied with him to bring about an end to that war.
But I'm sure Roosevelt would have acknowledged that Stalin murdered.
I'm glad you're speaking for Roosevelt and what he would have acknowledged. Why don't you just go to his public record, Anderson, instead of speaking for him?
Millions of people. You don't want to.
I don't dispute that. Again, my focus.
But you won't say anything about that, about Bashar al-Assad.
I've been very outspoken about this before.
Like 2+ minutes, the guy keeps trying to get her to say it. That's all he cares about.
These are things that are being used as detractions away from the central issue, which is we are still waging a regime change war in Syria today. We still have troops in Syria today, troops who are dying. That's my focus. That's why I'm running for president, to bring about this sea change in our
I understand
foreign policy.
I hadn't planned to go down this road, but I understand the not wanting to get involved militarily and certainly as a vet.
I'm sure you didn't want to go down this road. Of course you did. It was the road that you'd planned to go down the moment she sat down next to you, you lying fuck.
And you have more of a right than anybody to talk about that and have an opinion about it. Just on a factual basis, Bashar al-Assad is a murderer and a torturer. Do you not agree with that?
I just want to point this out. You know the earpiece in there? If you don't think they're telling him right in that earpiece, you do not let this go. You make her make a statement. You hear me? You do not let this go. 100%. This is time 4 or 5 that she's tried in 3 minutes that he's tried to pin her down on this.
I don't dispute that.
You don't dispute that. Okay. You said something on the stage that really I found very powerful, and I think people who do not have who have not served overseas, who do not have a loved one currently serving, who have served, understand. The word you used was betrayal.
Yeah.
Can you just talk to me a little bit about where you see that, and how that motivates you?
This is something that I've lived. And so many of my brothers and sisters in uniform have suffered the consequences of leaders who have lied to us as an excuse to go and wage a regime change war, to topple a dictator.
Weapons of mass destruction, anybody? Saddam Hussein, anybody? Watch Fabled Enemies. Watch Loose Change Final Cut. You'll find out. 9/11 as well. International intelligence operation to get us entrenched in the Middle East, to be disruptors, to destabilize the region and recreate it in our image.
It was very intentional. Over 4,000 of my brothers and sisters in uniform were killed as a result of that. So this is why I'm so serious and so focused about bringing about the kind of change to our foreign policy that will end these wasteful wars, that work to end this new Cold War and arms race, all of these things making our country less safe, making the American people less safe, taking the lives of more of our service members, what to speak of the cost on the American people. Now, when I speak about betrayal, it's something that is continuing. We've seen it in Iraq and Libya and Syria, the cost and consequence of these continued regime change wars, and how this president, and I mentioned this briefly before I ran out of time, is continuing this betrayal through his direct and indirect support of Al-Qaeda.
Boom! 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 Now, here's the thing. That's where they want to wrap this up. They don't want to talk about that in depth. They don't want to point out the al-Nusra Front. They don't want to point out that we allied with the people that supposedly attacked us to take our freedoms.
In places like Syria. You know, Syria is in the city of Idlib. It is the headquarters for Al-Qaeda. Now, Trump is still trying to overthrow the regime of Assad, and he has threatened anyone who goes after Al-Qaeda in the city of Idlib, where they are in control of the whole city, then he will use our military to go against whoever attacks him there. This is a betrayal to me, every single service member, every single family who lost a loved one in the attacks on 9/11, every single American.
But that does sound like, I mean, a talking point of the Assad regime. I mean,
that's the talking point of the Assad regime. What a piece of trash Anderson Cooper is. And let's just end it right there.
That the Assad regime has said...
This is just about the truth. I mean, Brett McGurk himself, who served under the Obama administration and again under the Trump administration, he was been quoted saying that Al-Qaeda is stronger than ever before and their stronghold is in Idlib. So why is Trump then making threats to anyone who threatens to go after them in Idlib that he will use our military to go after them? How do you explain that? How do you explain that to the 9/11 first responders, people who are still dealing with the after effects of that attack on 9/11?
You don't. You're Anderson Cooper. You just play the game of an establishment puppet. Well, I'm not an establishment puppet. If you like what I do, please thumbs this video up, share it with others. If you're new to the channel, now's the time to subscribe. Join the Burmis Brigade. We're doing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 times a day on subjects that matter. We're going to hit 35K today, and we're going to go to 40K, 50K, and hopefully 100,000 subscribers plus. Continue to bring this information to you guys. When we hit 35K, we're going to do a 35K AMA, Ask Me Anything, so you guys can ask me any kind of questions that you would like. I want to remind you that I am also a documentary filmmaker, and that all my documentary films, 2 of which are on 9/11, Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, are available free right here on this channel in the documentaries playlist section, as well as Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. I give everything I do away for free, and because of that, I'm hoping that you guys are going to financially support me. $5, $10, $15 means the world to me, and this is how I'm doing it. Again, there's no secret course. There's no bonus content. I want my stuff to be seen by as many people as possible. And if you want that to happen too, please consider donating. I love you guys. We will be back later today. I promise that. And I will see you all on the flip side.